Hello, everyone. I am Creatrix Tiara. Among other things, I am the volunteer manager wrangler for Freeplay. So if you've seen all our fantastic yellow shirt people around, please give them an applause. I'm also going to be moderating this panel on drop and aftercare. And what I mean by drop is that sort of, we'll let the panelists sort of describe it in their own words later, but it's basically the sort of feeling of a come down after you've done like a big thing, and then you had this sort of emotional crash. So like, I think we'll talk about culture shock, reverse culture shock, game jam drop, game release drop, sub drop, show drop, all that kind of drop. So before we start doing that, a couple of things. Firstly, we acknowledge that we are on the land of the Boon Wurrung and Wurundjeri people. We acknowledge all their elders past, present, emerging, and also acknowledge that we are on stolen land and this land was never ceded. And secondly, as I alluded to before, we're going to touch on topics like kink and mental health and potentially other triggering information. If you need to leave at any point, you're more than welcome. As a type of aftercare you can practice right now, we have a quiet room upstairs. So if you take the stairs or the lift up to one floor up, feel free to rest there for any reason. It's there for you today and tomorrow. Apparently no one's used it yet, but feel free to do so. And yeah, so now that we got it out of the way, I will let everyone introduce themselves and what about this topic interests them.
Hello, so I was the last minute addition to this, and it was brief, 20 minutes prior. But from what I understand, drop is like after you've done something that has taken so much of you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important, and I agreed to this panel in such short notice because it's something that I'm not recognizing particularly in myself. Just because my tendency is if I did something and I feel lonely, then I want to do something else, which isn't a good thing. Mm. And I think it's very important to be able to process emotions and process, what you're feeling or how something has affected you. Because, like, for example, I did a meditation game for World Penguin Day, and I was sad that not a lot of people tweeted penguins that day. So yeah. I think, did I answer the question?
You answered sort of that answer and 10 of the other questions. Right. Cool. Thank you. Lain?
Hi, I'm Lain, he, him pronouns. I'm on this panel talking about sub drop and aftercare as well as dom drop and aftercare from the other perspective of the sub. And game jam drop, which is a thing I'm pretty sure a lot of people experience in this room if you ever do game jams and you crash a couple of days later and you feel like you want to die a bit, yeah, that's the drop. That's the dopamine run out. You're gone now. And aftercare and stuff is a big part of my life because of, the scenes I'm into. Obviously do a lot of game jams, obviously a sub. Yeah.
Hi, so I'm Nikki, she, her. I'm looking at this from more of a show perspective, so I do a lot of musical theatre work on a purely voluntary basis, so it's not like I'm getting paid. I'm going out of my own way, taking my own time on top of work and everything else I do to spend about 3 weeks of my life in a theatre every night. I'm about to come up to production week of a show, but also from a convention show experience. So I guess a lot of you would have been, but mostly I volunteer at PAX. So I'm there sometimes even from Wednesday before the show starts, helping set that up, and then I don't stop until Tuesday actually after that. So that's another whole week where my whole life is just a show. So I'm looking at it from that perspective and the different come down and ways I deal with that as well.
Cool. So when you all experience drop in your life, how does that feel? Like, how does it manifest within you?
I think similar to like Leon, did I pronounce that? Lain. Lain said that. So this year, when I was part of the executive committee for Global Game Jam, we had a really good team, and I think there's always been really good support within the Global Game Jam community. But right after Hawaii uploaded, I felt that the next day, and I did get, good sleep. People were constantly being reminded to take a break and do stuff and take care of ourselves. But like after Tuesday, I was looking for something to do. That there was like that big void that, oh my God, it's Global Game Jam next, or it's next year again. And then I was just hugging my cats, even though they didn't want it to be hugged.
So I find for me drop manifests in a few ways. So drop for me comes usually after I've done something really big and exciting and something that makes me really happy. So game jams, when I released games a couple of times, that happened then, but that hasn't been for a few years. And when I'm subbing, all that sort of thing. Because you've got all the dopamine, you've got all the serotonin, and then suddenly you've used all that up in your brain. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. And you've run out. And drop for me manifests in sort of being generally sad, moping around the house, not wanting to take care of myself, not having like a desire to do things, wanting lots of cuddles from various people in my life, and just generally having a bit of a crap time and forgetting all my like self-care routine that I've got in place already.
So for me, it's a lot of exhaustion. So when I'm doing a theatre show, I will get up, go to work, I will go straight to the theatre. I don't get home till past midnight. And then I repeat again. Same with PAX. I'll be getting up at I think last year I got up at 6:30 each morning, had to climb out my window because my door broke. And I couldn't get it fixed until after PAX, so I was literally climbing in and out of my window every time I left home and got home, which made for an interesting extra hurdle that year. But then I'm there until at least an hour after the show closes, looking after the board game library, making sure we haven't lost pieces, making sure everything's back, chasing up people who have left their ID. Please don't leave your ID at the board game library. If you ever borrow games from us, we don't want to keep them. We get really worried when you leave them behind, because some of you go back into National and we've managed to catch people right before they're about to head to the airport when we had their passport. That was a fun one. So as soon as whatever show I'm working on is done, my body's just like, I can sleep now. I'll be riding on a high in the theatre show for 3 weeks straight of just constant work. Same with PAX, a week of constant just being aware, being on, that I suddenly just like, everything stops, my body decides to get sick almost every time because it's just been fighting off all that to keep me going. So I'm just like, it's terrible. I become the worst person to be around because I'm just this tired mess.
It's sort of interesting that you have like Gwen talking about itching to want to do something next, and then you're both talking about not wanting to do anything. Is there like, do you find like in how the way everyone described it, some things that feel the same, like some things you might find in common with the other panelists?
Maybe not personally, but I know for some subs, because I'm invested in the kink scene, some of them do need to do things for themselves immediately afterwards. So you get people who will be like, from their dom asking for aftercare, and their aftercare will be, push me to get food, push me to do these things for myself. I need to be alone for a bit. I need to do all these things for myself. And I need more things to work on. I need to take care of myself now. So that might be someone's aftercare, that they have a drive to do that.
That sort of mine is alone time. I'm an introverted person. So after all of this, having to deal with a lot of people, I have to recharge so much because all my ability to deal with people socially is gone. It's past used, so you don't talk to me. Even though I still have to go to work and I work in a public library, which is always interesting when I try not to get snappy at annoying patrons, but usually I'm all right.
I think with me wanting to do things, it's more of I'm looking for the next one. Just because I am also, I mean, I live at home, like all my work is at home, so events generally are the only time I do interact with people. Like I feel like if I did have work where I had to be at an office and I had to constantly deal with people, then I would be very exhausted even without the events. But the reason why I think it's instilled duty and responsibility, considering I do handle a lot of the communities back home, that it's this fear that you're not necessarily doing enough for the events. That, for example, in this year's or in last year's Indie Fiesta, so that's I am in the venue like 4 days that week, like 10 hours to 12 hours straight. But I have other people to deal with other people, but everything, all of the problems do fall on me. And I solve them without having to talk to other people. So I think that's why I have more energy to think of future events, because I know how exhausting social interaction can be for a lot of people.
So you've all touched on a little bit about the next half of this panel, which is the aftercare part. So it's like, when we talk about aftercare, we talk about things that you do to take care of yourself, what other people do for you, but also let's include stuff that you do before and during the event, or before and during the big thing that eventually leads to a calm down, that hopefully helps make the calm down a little calmer. Like, what sort of things do you find helpful?
So I grew up with sports. Normally, and I think it's widely known that there's always the conference flu that happens regardless of wherever you are. So leading towards the event, I tell people that, if it's an event in the future or if it's a project in the future, like I tell even my clients that you can't talk to me for 2 weeks because I just have to be super focused on this thing. And so before the event, it's prioritizing and compartmentalizing what takes your time. So if there are like 2 events that are next to each other, then Monday to Wednesday at this and this time is for this event, and then Thursday, Saturday is for this event. During the event, I think it's very important to delegate so that it doesn't burden you so much, and to only take so like if you ask yourself, like, I want to volunteer, for example, for like 5 hours, then with production, like as a trained producer, to me that means, okay, I'll just get you to work for 3 hours and stuff like that. So it's very important to, even when somebody commits themselves to it, you have to give room so that at that time they can decide if they want to do more or they want to do less. Like, the reason why other people deal with people for me is because I don't want to deal with them. Like, and they're extroverted, like they could carry that on for the next few days. And I think after and actually before, during, and after, it's just important to get what enough sleep you need. It's important to note if you are the long-term sleeper that you need like 8 hours full of sleep, or if you're like a biphasal sleeper that you need breaks and nap times and stuff like that. So I think it's super important to know what your body needs and eating healthy also.
Yeah, so I guess because my things are more short bursts like game jams or scenes, I take vitamins in the lead up to a scene or a game jam. I sleep really well. I eat properly, or I endeavor to sleep really well and eat properly. I try and, exercise a bit. Generally take care of my health in more way than I usually do. I make sure I've seen my therapist beforehand. That's really important. See therapists, people. Generally take care of myself properly, and make sure my self-care routine is up to scratch. During the events, again, make sure you sleep, especially game jams, sleep. It's okay. Eating properly, eating regularly. It's okay to have snack breaks for things, especially scenes and stuff. Get your blood sugar up if you're feeling faint. If you're feeling faint at all, maybe stop and get your blood sugar up. That's okay, you can continue a scene later. And same with, game jams. If you're feeling faint, you should probably eat something. I guess that's my main advice for before and after things, and what I do personally is just make sure I'm in as good health as I can be.
What about immediately after?
Oh, immediately after?
Okay, the thing has happened and now it's the come down.
All right, immediately after. So my first thing is to call on friends or partners or whatever. That's my absolute first thing, is be like, hey, just letting you know I'm experiencing this drop, or I will have told them in advance and be like, hey, this drop is now. Eat a good meal, have snacks. I'm really focused on the eating here, but it's really important to get your blood sugar back up and up to normal after you've not been sleeping properly or after you've had a big event or something. Immediately after, eat properly, see people.
What about the mood end of things? Because Gwen wanted to know how you dealt with the sadness.
Oh, how I deal with the sadness? I go see a therapist. I see a therapist, I talk to people, I make art, I try and motivate myself to do things, I get people I know to motivate me to do things. So that's a really important part of me and my Dom's relationship, is he'll be like, okay, now you're going to do something for yourself and get your emotions out. You're either going to talk to me, or you're going to write it out, or you're going to draw something. We're going to talk about what's happened. Even after game jams, I will talk to him about what's happened. It's just part of our relationship. I find having someone to get you to do that, if you have a lot of trouble doing that, whether that's therapist or friend or partner, it's really good. Yeah.
And Nikki?
So my, before something is similar to Lain's, because I'm right before a show, I am pretty much mainlining the multivitamins and the vitamin C, so I am supporting my immune system because I know I will have a bad crash, and it always seems to be around flu season that these things happen for me, so flu, that gets me a bit. But during the shows, I'm always very much forcing myself to eat healthy, try not to go into the temptation of, I'll just go get some Maccas on my way to the show, because that's not that healthy. So I'm getting a bit more into food prepping, so I've got that healthy food. I take a lot of naps during shows and conventions. Here we've got the quiet room. At PAX is always the AFK room. Having that space to get away from all that stimulus can be really, really useful. I'm sure the AFK people won't mind if you just want to have a nap in there, because if that's what self-care is for you during a show and you just need a place to have a little bit of a sleep, I really think they'd be accommodating to that. They're lovely, lovely people. Immediately after though, so my post-theatre is a pretty interesting one, I guess. Because we do bump out immediately after our last show. So I won't get home until the sun rises on the Sunday after our last show, because we're packing up the entire thing, pulling down the flyers, putting the theatre back to the way it was when we got there. So I literally get home, have a few hours of sleep, and then I'm in the bath with Netflix, some bath bombs from Lush, and a big ass tub of ice cream. The day before, I will literally prep by making sure I've got my favourite bath bombs, I have my favourite ice cream, usually some Easy Mac as well, because that stuff's really easy to make and tastes really good, even though I know it's mostly crap. But after it, it's just sort of having all those comforting things, sort of while I'm exhausted and don't want to talk to anyone. Just making myself feel good is a really great way of dealing with all that letdown and emotion.
Cool. We're about at the end of our panel, but I wanted to leave on, you go to every panel, it's like, what can the community do? Da, da, da. But, you all talked about projects that involve multiple people. You, Gwen, brought up talking about how, as a producer, it's almost like your responsibility to make sure your team is also being able to take care of yourselves. You've talked about, the jobs of subs supporting each other through relationship and with your crew. So if there's anything you'd like everyone here to take away in terms of supporting aftercare for themselves, but also for everyone else that they work with and in the places where they work, what would you recommend?
So one of the really big things we have with PACs in our volunteer community, and probably it's a bit more in the wider community, we love to tell the stories afterwards. Because you've been on this high for 3 days and you've seen all these awesome things and done all these awesome things. It's a really good way of dealing with that sudden loss of all the stimulus and everything, is to talk about it. Find people and be like, hey, did you see this awesome game? I just played this awesome indie game. I got this free stuff from this AAA game, because they love handing out their free stuff. We seriously love comparing, going, where did you get that from? Where can I get it? How can I get it? What do I have to do to get it? Some of them are really ridiculous. Was anyone there and saw Hitman having actually people shaving their heads last year? They actually had a barber salon last year and people were literally shaving their heads and they had little rubber ducks. I've got one with my rubber duck collection in the bathroom. That's a little Hitman rubber duck. It's gorgeous. But yeah, shaving their heads for things. I'm like, that's a big commitment for swag, honestly. But hey, if you're going to do it, why not? So yeah, but tell those stories, engage with the communities that you've created. And I'm sure it'd be in game jams and stuff, you'd be talking about how awesome it was, what we did and that sort of thing.
I think especially with game jams, if you work in a team, talk to your teammates afterwards, for an extended period of time, about how it went and how you're doing. They'll want to know and you'll want to know how they're doing as well. Just keep in touch with each other. Yeah.
I think from my end, it's important to know yourself and know what works for you. Because, just to me, I think that I've created my own bubble that, I have my cats, and cats are very therapeutic. And they're very, they're like living furniture. They're just there to be your friend. And so get cats, adopt, don't shop. And I think it's just important that if you're not feeling okay, you should tell somebody who could do something that could make it happen, so not everybody else is gonna feel what you do. And I think, it's important that nobody burns out and nobody, is too sad after a project and do stuff like that. I think with game projects in particular, with releases, postmortems are super important, because then you know what went wrong and what was done right. And I think that helps a lot in the process. And I think after this panel, I need to deal with my emotions. But yeah, I mean, it's fun to laugh about everything after and to find people you could laugh with at all times.
Cool. Thank you so much to our panel, Gwen Foster, Lain Veras, and Nikki Imberger.